What a terrifying formation. No wonder it's a powerful array that contains 500,000 formation runes. The moment Xiao Yin touched the so-called demon-slaying formation, every bit of power in his body trembled. His soul energy and sacred flame energy actually emitted a sense of pleasure, as if the energy contained in the formation resonated with both. This demon-slaying formation appeared almost transparent, perfectly blending with the space around it. However, as Xiao Yin passed through, layers of liquid-like formation power surrounded his entire body, probing through his skin, flesh, and even his soul with utmost clarity. "Brother Xiao Yin, are you all right?" In the next moment, Xun'er felt an unusual disturbance inside Xiao Yan's body through her palm, and she couldn't help but furrow her brow and ask. Xun'er naturally knew about the demonic cube within Xiao Yin. Now that the demon-slaying formation's power was so overwhelming, it was likely sensing the presence of the demonic cube. Just as expected, it seems the master's words were right. "Let's go. I am also fulfilling someone's request." The elder leading the way glanced at Xiao Yan's somewhat pale face. Then, as if guided by someone, a gentle force enveloped Xiao Yan. Immediately, the overwhelming repulsive force began to gradually weaken. "Thank you, Senior." After speaking, the three of them stepped over the demon-slaying formation and made their way toward the palace of the Great Thousand. At the top of the Great Thousand Tree, the grand and magnificent palace of the Great Thousand stood. In front of the palace was an extremely spacious plaza. At this moment, indescribable energy fluctuations spread throughout the plaza, seemingly coming from the void itself. These waves carried an infinite amount of reincarnation energy. As soon as they emerged, they stirred intense energy ripples, almost as if they could tear apart the very fabric of the void. However, this was the palace of the Great Thousand, and its sturdiness was far beyond the power of this energy. Under the guidance of the elder, Xiao Yin and Xun'er moved toward the back of the plaza. At the same time, figures, covered in dust from travel, were continuously arriving in the plaza. Clearly, they were all top-tier individuals from various dimensions here to attend the Dimension Conference. Is that the Heavenly Phoenix clan? As soon as they arrived, Xun'er looked around the plaza, her gaze stopping at a dazzling figure standing in the center. Unable to help herself, she muttered. Xiao Yin turned his gaze upon hearing this, and immediately saw a graceful middle-aged woman materializing in the void. The woman was extraordinarily enchanting, radiating an elegant aura. The most striking feature was the small energy phoenix that danced across her embroidered robes. The fluctuation of energy from the phoenix was exceptionally powerful. This wave of energy was familiar to Xiao Yin. It was the power of the Phoenix clan. The Heavenly Phoenix clan, a super race with bloodlines closest to the phoenix. I didn't expect even they would be here. Xiao Yin nodded and furrowed his brows, weighing the situation. People from Shircha Island are here too. Powerful gusts of wind spread across the plaza, and several young and talented experts gathered in the area. Their strength was formidable, and their pride was as sharp as a blade. After all, these were the strongest young members from the superpowers of the human realm in the Great Thousand World. Why are these two personally greeted by the elders of the Palace of the Great Thousand? A group of several young prodigies looked at Xiao Yin and Xun'er, who stood behind the elder, their faces full of confusion. The Palace of the Great Thousand held an extraordinary status, and very few people in the entire Great Thousand World could receive such treatment. Great Qin Elder, it seems most people have arrived. Shouldn't we begin the Dimension Conference? And according to the golden invitation issued by the Great Qin Alliance, this Dimension Conference seems to be different from previous ones. We still need the Great Qin Elder to answer our questions. The woman from the Heavenly Phoenix clan gently twirled her fingers, causing the phoenix to hum slightly. Waves of immense energy radiated outward. Such a strong reincarnation fluctuation. I fear this person's strength has already reached the peak of the first-tier reincarnation stage. Looking at the woman from the Heavenly Phoenix clan, the other experts present were also inwardly shocked, although they all agreed with her assessment. Heh, no rush. Before the Dimension Conference officially begins, there is still an important matter to address. So please, everyone, wait for a little longer. Also, there are still a few important individuals who haven't arrived. The great Qin elder, who was leading Xiao Yin and Xun'er, smiled warmly. After surveying the plaza, he spoke. As soon as the great Qin elder finished speaking, the entire plaza was filled with a deathly silence. The Palace of the Great Thousand was a place of supreme strength, and no one dared to act recklessly here. The elders within the Palace of the Great Thousand were the true core of the palace's operations. Even the heads of the superpowers from the human realm would treat them with respect, not to mention the 3 higher-ranking figures within the Palace of the Great Thousand. Seeing the situation in the arena, some personnel from the ancient palace of the Great Thousand stepped out to maintain order. The great Qin elder turned to Xiao Yin and Xun'er and said, then directly walked toward the inner palace of the Great Thousand. The Palace of the Great Thousand stood tall at the top of the Great Thousand Tree, immense in size, stretching a full 1,000 meters. Its interior contained countless resources and items. Now, the ancient palace was slowly opening, and an indifferent and solemn silence filled the hearts of the powerful figures present. Why is this guy allowed to enter the Palace of the Great Thousand first? This isn't fair. What's going on here? The people present were all of noble birth and immense strength. Seeing the treatment Xiao Yin and Xun'er received, they couldn't help but feel some jealousy. This is the domain lord of the boundless fire domain, everyone. Seeing some voices rising from the crowd, Xin Fengzi quickly spoke up, trying to stir up trouble. Having suffered a loss before, he was now looking to get even. Everyone, please calm down. Domain Lord Xiao is someone personally summoned by the demon-slaying king of the Palace of the Great Thousand. If you have a problem, take it up with Lord Demon-slaying. The personnel from the Palace of the Great Thousand, who had stepped out to maintain order, spoke calmly, their tone filled with deep reverence. Personally summoned by the demon-slaying king? Whoosh! Upon hearing the words from the Palace of the Great Thousand staff, many of the powerful figures couldn't help but take a sharp breath, falling silent. The prestige and power of the demon-slaying king were not something they could defame. Great Qin Elder, what is this? Xiao Yin and Xun'er followed the great Qin Elder into the Palace of the Great Thousand. The ground beneath their feet and the corridors they passed through were filled with ancient runes, and these powerful forces resembled formation patterns. However, the holy aura contained within them was terrifying. I know you have many questions, but I am just a messenger, the great Qin Elder said, then pointed to a simple wooden chamber ahead, speaking softly, the Lord is waiting for you there. Inside the wooden chamber ahead, there was a mysterious, ethereal atmosphere, and silver threads of light fell from above, making the place seem magnificent. But as Xiao Yin and Xun'er's eyes fell upon it, they both felt a chilling sensation running through them, as though there was some powerful being hiding inside this wooden chamber. Thud, thud, thud. Master, they have arrived. The great Qin Elder reached out and knocked on the door of the chamber, speaking to the figure inside. Let them in. A deep, commanding voice responded from inside the chamber. We can prepare for the Dimension Conference now. We'll begin immediately after our discussion. Time is of the essence. There's no room for delay. Yes. After saying this, the great Qin Elder immediately stepped back, and Xiao Yin and Xun'er easily entered the chamber. Buzz, buzz. As soon as they stepped into the room, the surrounding space violently changed, causing a dizziness, as though the very void here had been intentionally sealed. Space domain? Before they could even begin to analyze the space, Xiao Yin exclaimed in shock. Your senses are quite sharp. I am the demon-slaying king of the Palace of the Great Thousand, Lung Luochen. Xiao Yin, it's a pleasure to meet you. Inside the wooden chamber, there was no ordinary furnishing, but a stable space domain. Above, in the space vortex, stood a middle-aged man with a slightly dark complexion. His eyes glowed faintly as he stared at Xiao Yin. Demon-slaying king? Xiao Yin furrowed his brow, his hand gripping Xun'er's tightly. Clearly, he didn't know how to handle this scene before him. The demon-slaying king, despite appearing middle-aged, had a head of white hair, showing signs of hardship. His presence alone gave Xiao Yin an overwhelming sense of danger, even stronger than the elder of the Fire Spirit clan, Eliza. This is my domain. Our conversation will be private. The middle-aged man walked slowly toward Xiao Yin. His immense power surged like a vast, bottomless ocean, and as his power spread, it seemed to be probing or searching for something within Xiao Yan's body. What's the Dimension Conference about? Xiao Yin asked after a brief pause, deciding to inquire. The Dimension Conference has always been a gathering for the younger generation to communicate. However, this time, it's a little different. Long Luochen spoke with an undeniable tone of authority, and his gaze had not left Xiao Yin since the beginning. This demon-slaying king, though looking no more than middle-aged, with his handsome face and cold demeanor, was chilling, and his power was unfathomable. He was probably stronger than even Eliza. I'm curious, why has the demon-slaying king called for me? Xiao Yin asked indifferently, looking directly at him. At that moment, Long Luochen suddenly grinned, his previously serious expression softening considerably. Extraterritorial evil clan? Xiao Yin was taken aback upon hearing this. Although the sacred flame within him was no longer a secret, hearing it mentioned by the demon-slaying king still surprised him. This kind of thing was certainly not a good omen. No. Our Palace of the Great Thousand has been established for quite some time, giving rise to many powerful demon-slaying kings. As for me, I'm just a latecomer, far from being on par with those predecessors. Some of these demon-slaying kings have already perished after countless years, leaving behind extremely precious treasures. Among them, the martial mansion of demon-slaying King Zhou is currently the place where we've gathered the most accurate intelligence. The martial mansion is full of treasures, including supreme techniques that can peer into the secrets of heaven, along with many great opportunities. After weighing the matter for a moment, Long Luochen's words seemed to take a different turn. Demon-slaying King Zhou has fallen, so how can his name and aura still be used to issue the Great Qin Alliance scrolls? And what does this have to do with my sacred flame? Xiao Yin asked, his gaze filled with confusion as he looked at Long Luochen. Zhou and Long Luochen were both demon-slaying kings, but it was clear that, without a doubt, the former's strength and prestige were far superior to the latter's. Lord Zhou martial mansion is located in an evil zone, which is one of the strongholds of the extraterritorial evil clan. Therefore, if we want to enter, we must rely on the sacred flame to block their influence, or else we won't be able to approach. Long Luochen shook his head, then fixed his gaze on Xiao Yin, as if certain that he would agree. But what does this have to do with me? In the Great Thousand World, I can't be the only one who controls the sacred flame. Anyone with terrifying strength could easily surpass me. Hearing this, Xiao Yin smiled slightly, knowing that both of them were no strangers to such matters. Once the sacred flame acknowledges its master, it can never be taken away. This is what grants the controller a revered status. As for other experts, they're all stationed at various fortresses in the Great Thousand World and can't move. With the extraterritorial evil clan already making moves, we can't afford to move our top combatants easily. This time, the battle for the mansion is a major event in your Dimension Conference. Long Luochen explained, his eyes lingering on Xiao Yin with a knowing look. What's in it for me? Xiao Yin asked, a playful yet serious smile on his face. Such matters could not be taken lightly. Naturally, there will be benefits for you, but only after the mission is completed. Our Palace of the Great Thousand will ensure that we send you to the void of your choice. Everything you gain in the cave will be yours, and any other specifics will be discussed at the Dimension Conference. Here. He handed Xiao Yin a golden piece of paper that suddenly appeared, speaking with a touch of formality. This is. Xun'er, who had been silent until now, furrowed her brows in surprise as she looked at the golden paper in front of Xiao Yin. The golden paper was as clean as white paper, with no markings or inscriptions. Yet, there was an invisible aura of vast power emanating from it. Let's go. You go ahead to the Dimension Conference Room, and I'll be there shortly. With that, the spatial domain was lifted, and the room returned to normal. Xiao Yin and Xun'er, guided by Palace of the Great Thousand staff, headed toward the Dimension Conference Room. It wasn't until Xiao Yan's figure disappeared from sight that the void in the room seemed to stir. An old man, his face filled with guilt, emerged and muttered to himself, looking at the spot where Xiao Yin had vanished. Is it too cruel to use them like this? Ancient Kuan King, have you forgotten the terrible suffering that the great Thousand World endured under the attacks of the extraterritorial evil clan? After countless years of development, the top forces on the human realm's continent have become focused on their own little corners. We're doing this out of necessity. After all, relying solely on our palace of the Great Thousand isn't enough to shake the foundation of the extraterritorial evil clan. Moreover, our demon-slaying kings have suffered too many losses in past battles. Without employing some special means to consolidate our strength, we may not survive the second great war of heaven and earth. I have a bad feeling. The recent peace in the Great Thousand World is likely the calm before the storm, with the extraterritorial evil clan already gathering its forces to plan an assault on our territory. Long Luochen, the demon-slaying king, spoke with a deep sigh, his face full of resentment. Perhaps, once we rescue this great lord, we'll bear all the sins ourselves. The Great Thousand World will be protected by our Great Qin Alliance and Palace of the Great Thousand. This mission to the Martial Mansion is our official battle with the extraterritorial evil clan. With those words, the two demon-slaying kings vanished from the room. However, the upcoming Dimension Conference was likely not going to be a simple matter. Xiao Yin, brother, that Lung Luochen's expression seemed off just now. He seemed to want to say something but hesitated. As Xiao Yin walked through the vast palace of the Great Thousand toward the conference room, Xun'er communicated with him using her soul power. A powerful figure like the demon-slaying king calling him for a private meeting likely had obvious intentions, and all evidence pointed toward the golden sheet of paper in Xiao Yan's hands. It's definitely a bit suspicious, and this matter probably isn't that simple. We'll just have to adapt as we go. After saying this, they entered the conference room. Xiao Yin could sense some hidden traces indicating that this trip might be fraught with danger, but there was no way around it. It was something he had to experience. They're here. Xiao Yan's here? The one personally summoned by the demon-slaying king. What on earth did he do behind the scenes? In the grand conference hall of the Palace of the Great Thousand, the elite figures sat in silence, though their minds echoed with these words. The meeting hall was arranged in a circular fashion, with space for dozens of young geniuses to sit, while the center rose high, grand and majestic, reserved for those who would preside over the conference. Oh! Not long after, the heavenly Phoenix clan woman shifted her gaze from Xiao Yin to Xun'er, and a look of astonishment appeared on her face. It was like a suppression from a higher bloodline, especially noticeable. Heavenly Phoenix clan, Feng Qin? Feng Qin walked straight over, her gaze fixed on Xun'er as she spoke, unable to stop herself. Graceful, composed, serene, and with an indescribable noble aura. On top of that, her flawless face and figure made even someone like Feng Qin, a beauty from the heavenly Phoenix clan, feel inferior. Boundless fire domain, Gu Xun'er. Xun'er didn't act coy. She calmly extended her hand and grasped Feng Qin's. She knew that this was due to the effects of the reincarnation seal from the Master of the Nine Mystical Flames and the Phoenix Nirvana Pill. Since Feng Qin came from the Fire Phoenix domain, Xun'er was happy to oblige. Since most people are here, let the Dimension Conference begin. However, before we start, we must go through a simple procedure. As the two women stood in tense silence, a soft voice rang out. The Great Qin Elder and the demon-slaying king, Long Luochen, walked out from the back of the hall. The demon-slaying king, a superpower capable of killing the Red King stage from the extraterritorial evil clan. With their arrival, the entire conference room fell silent. Everyone's gaze was fixed on them, sensing a terrifying power that could move the very heavens and earth. I wonder what other procedures are necessary? Some of the guests exchanged glances, clearly hearing about these preparations for the first time before a Dimension Conference. Everyone should have a demon-suppressing stone, right? The Great Qin Elder asked with a smile. Demon-suppressing stone? Are we about to test our demon-slaying points? Upon hearing this, some of the more perceptive people suddenly realized. The demon-suppressing stone? Xiao Yin was taken aback. He seemed to recall obtaining this item during his training in the Ghost Realm. It was said that each time one killed an extraterritorial evil clan member, points would be generated and automatically recorded. These points could be exchanged for useful items, though most were only useful in the cycle of reincarnation. Since he had exchanged for the devouring flame technique long ago, he hadn't checked for any further use. Xiao, did you forget? The demon-suppressing stone is a special stone that records demon-slaying points. It's extremely sensitive to evil forces. Whenever a team or an individual kills an extraterritorial evil clan member, points are automatically generated. Similar to the supreme title of the demon-slaying king, it's said that one needs 1 million points to attain it. To gain points, one must kill powerful members of the extraterritorial evil clan. There are 5 stages: Heaven, Earth, Sovereign, Emperor, and King. The King stage requires 100,000 points, Black King 200,000, White King 300,000, and the Red King has 900,000 demon-slaying points. Xun'er, who was well-versed in such matters, spoke up to remind him. I know all that, but it seems this only applies to the ghost realm. Xiao shook his head and walked over to the great Qin elder, who had already begun testing, taking out his demon-suppressing stone. However, this one felt quite different from the previous ones. It seemed much heavier, and a faint, blood-red glow flickered, creating a terrifying aura. This fluctuation. Lung Luochen, who had always remained quiet, furrowed his brows and stared intently at the demon-suppressing stone in front of Xiao. At this moment, the stone was covered with numerous cracks, and blood-red symbols were spreading within them. It looked as if it would shatter at any moment, making it look incredibly dangerous. 170. The great Qin elder, who was testing the stone, spoke with difficulty as he gazed at the flashing numbers on the test stone. It's unbelievable. As the demon-slaying king in the mighty palace of the Great Thousand, his demon-slaying points only totaled 1.2 million. Yet this mere reincarnation stage individual has more than him? The 1.2 million demon-slaying points had taken him thousands of years to accumulate, and he had barely escaped death several times to finally earn the prestigious title and status of demon-slaying king. My lord, is this Blood King Imo? The demonic scholar, Blood Centipede Marquis King? Names that were well known among the extraterritorial evil clan, echoing through the halls of the palace of the Great Thousand, flowed from the mouth of the great Qin elder, instantly freezing the air in the entire conference hall. Among the extraterritorial evil clan, figures like these, notorious during the First Great Heavenly War, were naturally household names. Did you kill all these extraterritorial evil clan powerhouses? After a long silence, Lung Luochen turned and stared at Xiao as though he were some kind of monster. The extraterritorial evil clan's powerhouses were extremely elusive. Even they could hardly track their movements, yet Xiao had exterminated so many of them. There were various ranks, including the Red King stage Blood Centipede Marquis King of the evil clan. Indeed. Seeing the sudden silence in the hall, Xiao was momentarily confused as to why the atmosphere had changed, but he was stunned by the points on the demon-suppressing stone. Brother Xiao, I've heard that the demon-suppressing stone was forged by the palace of the Great Thousand and then distributed to the major leaders of the 7 realms. The demon-suppressing stone can clearly record the extraterritorial evil clan that the holder has slain, including even their titles and other details. It seems that Brother Xiao has been hiding his true power. Xun'er smiled with her little tiger teeth showing, then looked at Xiao with admiration, her expression both intimate and cute. 1.7 million demon-slaying points, and you've slain a Red King stage? Lord Long, Xiao here can officially be promoted to our palace of the Great Thousand as Demon-Slaying King. The words of the great Qin elder rang through the hall like a thunderclap, his voice hoarse and rigid. Demon-Slaying King. This guy's battle achievements are enough to earn him the title of Demon-Slaying King? Everyone around looked at Xiao with fear in their eyes. The title of Demon-Slaying King almost represented the top-tier powers in the human realm. Anyone holding the title within the palace of the Great Thousand was undoubtedly an invincible powerhouse whose name resonated through the world. This Xiao, whose strength was merely at the peak of the reincarnation stage, had actually earned such a title? Moreover, the most important thing. Once one earned the title of demon-slaying king, the treasures of the Palace of the Great Thousand would be open to them. These treasures were known to be legendary, coveted by countless geniuses across the Great Thousand Worlds. Since the identities and positions are settled, let's begin the Dimension Conference. Everyone, please take your seats. From today onward, Xiao of the Boundless Fire Domain officially becomes the 99th demon-slaying king of the Palace of the Great Thousand. Once this matter is resolved, I will personally grant you the title of demon-slaying king, and the resources of our palace will be fully dedicated to your cultivation. After a long moment, Lung Luochen spoke solemnly. As for the demon-slaying points, such things could not be faked or borrowed. It all relied on one's own power. With Xiao sacred flame, after some consideration, this was the only way forward. Then, thank you, Lord Long. Xiao inwardly rejoiced, but he cupped his fists and spoke humbly. All right, enough of that. Let's begin our Dimension Conference. Is there any further objection? Lung Luochen surveyed the room and, seeing few objections, immediately continued. A deep silence fell over the room. At that moment, Xiao seemed like an enormous mountain, casting a heavy shadow on all the young elites present, making them feel utterly defeated. Since there are no objections, then the Dimension Conference officially begins. Lung Luochen's voice fell, and with him, Xiao and the great Qin elders stood on the platform. Lung Luochen spoke first. What exactly does the Palace of the Great Thousand intend to do with this Dimension Conference? Nearly 50 young geniuses sat back in their seats, their minds already racing as they speculated on what might unfold. With a powerhouse like demon-slaying King Xiao involved, they sensed that things would not be simple. Past Dimension Conferences have been contests among the top young elites of the human realm, but this time, there will be some changes. The name Extraterrestrial Evil Clan. I'm sure everyone is familiar with it? Lung Luochen began, unveiling the plan that had long been prepared, and which was now slowly being conveyed to these people through the Dimension Conference. Of course, while the Dimension Conference was intended for the young elites of the top powers in the human realm, only a few powers, like the Sword Domain, dedicated entirely to swordsmanship, might disdain to attend. However, these were few and far between. Extraterrestrial Evil Clan? After the First Great Heavenly War, the Extraterrestrial Evil Clan was routed, wasn't it? Didn't they already lose? Are they coming back? After the Heavenly War ended, several righteous seniors burned their reincarnations to seal the dimensional rifts. As soon as Lung Luochen spoke, the entire hall erupted in an instant. Given these individuals' deep hatred and knowledge of the extraterritorial evil clan, they were undoubtedly among the foremost experts on the matter. The dimensional rift hasn't shown any fluctuations yet. However, because of the First Great Heavenly War, although our Great Thousand Worlds emerged victorious, we paid an enormous price. Countless mighty figures perished, including many demon-slaying kings from our Palace of the Great Thousand. Demon-slaying King Zhou, does everyone still remember him? After waiting for the murmurs to settle, Lung Luochen spoke again. Demon-slaying King Zhou? Apparently, he was an extremely ruthless figure. To save his beloved wife, he single-handedly infiltrated an extraterritorial evil clan royal stronghold, wiping out the entire race, including several king-grade experts and a Red King stage powerhouse. And in the end, he walked away unharmed. But I recall that this mighty figure seems to have perished after the First Great Heavenly War. The rumors say that it was due to the end of his lifespan. Feng Qin's lips parted slightly, clearly more familiar with this expert than the others. This dimensional conference is actually a major opportunity. After Lord Zhou Yuan's death, his essence transformed into the Martial Mansion, located in a certain void space. It's been surrounded and constantly assaulted by the extraterritorial evil clan's experts. Even we can't stay there for long. The Martial Mansion's formidable reputation, everyone should be familiar with, right? As the crowd showed their astonishment, Lung Luochen threw another bombshell of information. The Martial Mansion? The Martial Mansion was actually Lord Zhou Yuan's residence? Surprised voices filled the air, and immediately, a fervor seemed to rise in the eyes of everyone present. Within the Martial Mansion, There's said to be a nearly perverse martial technique, the Martial Emperor's Sacred Body. No one knows the exact level, but there are rumors that the late Zhou Yuan used this technique to block an attack from a Red King stage expert of the extraterritorial evil clan. It's said to be an unparalleled technique specifically for enhancing the body. The rumored level of this technique is likely already in the realm of immortal arts. After the sacred class, there's said to be lesser immortal arts, middle immortal arts, greater immortal arts, and beyond that, it's the divine class martial arts. But those things are so ethereal and elusive. Xun'er gently placed her hand near Xiao Yan's ear and whispered, her breath creating a heat wave around him. Is the most powerful body-enhancing martial technique below the divine class? Then the complete dragon god transformation. Could it be divine class? Xiao Yan nodded firmly, still astonished. The matter of the martial mansion is of great importance. Please forgive me for withholding some details. We've obtained exact information about the martial mansion, but due to the constraints of the extraterritorial evil clan's powerful forces, we can't send out the strongest experts. Therefore, we must rely on you. We have no other demands. Everything you acquire from the martial mansion will belong to you. All we ask is that you bring back Lord Zhou Yuan's body. Those interested, stay. We will lay out a more detailed plan. If anyone has concerns, feel free to leave. Lung Luochen spoke naturally, without any forcefulness in his voice. Upon hearing this, the expressions of the crowd shifted, caught between the massive opportunity and the looming dangers of the extraterritorial evil clan. It was clearly a difficult decision. Since no one is backing out, the journey to the martial mansion is now in your hands. Elder Kuan, I leave the task of maintaining the extraterritorial space's traversal to you. Xiao Yan, I entrust you with isolating the extraterritorial space. Lung Luochen addressed the elder at the back of the hall. Heh, no problem. I haven't seen such passionate young talents in a long time. A faint laugh echoed from behind, but it carried an overwhelming and terrifying power that seemed to transcend the very heavens. Is this a soul above the transformation realm? A divine wanderer? Xiao Yan's spiritual palace vibrated intensely, clearly feeling the immense pressure from this person. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the space in the hall twisted, and thick black gas began to float around the edges of the spatial portal, the link to the extraterritorial space. Thud. This is the detailed map of the martial mansion. I've transmitted it into your minds using soul power. The journey to the martial mansion now rests with you. As the demon-slaying king, Xiao Yan will be fully responsible for the command this time. I, Lung Luochen, hereby wish you all a triumphant return. After finishing these words, Lung Luochen cupped his hands and bowed deeply to the group of experts. Your Majesty Long is too polite. Let's go. Upon hearing this, everyone stood up, and one by one, they stepped into the spatial portal. Protected by the soul power of Elder Kuan, who had transcendent power, they ventured into the extraterritorial space. Demon-slaying king, he is a peerless powerhouse who once crushed the Red King stage in the Great Thousand Worlds. Now, his mansion left behind in the human realm. What kind of intense battle will it give birth to? Boom! Through the vast space passage, after nearly an hour of rapid flight, everyone arrived at their destination. Extraterritorial. According to the information provided by demon-slaying King Long Luochen, this was a special place in the extraterritorial lands, known as the Mystic Ghost region. The land was littered with broken corpses and shattered weapons, clearly the aftermath of a fierce battle. The earth and space were both suffused with a sickly, deathly gray, and the dried bloodstains were especially eye-catching. In this world, everything was shrouded in pitch-black darkness, with no sunlight or warmth to be found. In the dim, oppressive skies of the extraterritorial realm, streaks of dark red light fell from the heavens like meteorites. With each roar, thick, black shadows seemed to spill out, and under the assault of these forces, even the void turned to nothingness. These black shadows rampaged through the area as if searching for food. The sounds they made were utterly horrifying. Brother Xiao Yan. As they easily arrived on the land, stepping quietly on the barren soil, Xun'er tightly grasped Xiao Yan's hand and leaned against him, her gaze warily scanning the world around them. Unease, heart palpitations, fear, and the unknown. All these sensations mixed together, making these heaven-born prodigies feel an inexplicable sense of irritation. This mystic ghost region is truly dangerous. Xiao Yin activated the glazed sacred radiance, using his sacred flame power along with Elder Kuan's vast soul energy to temporarily isolate the extraterritorial space, preventing the supreme beings of the extraterritorial evil clan from detecting them. He then gazed solemnly at the terrifying black shadows in the surrounding void. This place was already considered the core of the extraterritorial realm. Even some ordinary experts at the second-tier reincarnation stage would likely be trapped here forever, let alone their group, whose strength spanned from the reincarnation stage to the first-tier reincarnation stage. According to the intelligence, the high-altitude space in this void is where Senior Zhou Yuan and the Martial Mansion are located. Within the Martial Mansion, apart from the battle skills at the Great Forbidden Technique level, there are countless rare treasures. The prodigies with reincarnation stage cultivation said hurriedly, their eyes not yet fully set on the surroundings. They quickly rose and surged forward toward this unknown space. In the dim and oppressive space, a massive, boundless mansion stood towering in the distance. It was surrounded by an unknown, terrifying force, and under this power, even the evil forces of this world seemed to tremble in fear. Upon closer inspection, the void around the mansion appeared severely shattered. It seemed as though under the influence of this mysterious power, the entire world was shaking. Crackle! Xiao Yin stared at the mansion surrounded by mysterious forces, unable to suppress a sharp breath. His body involuntarily tensed. With his soul power, he couldn't probe this mansion. Moreover, once his soul power made contact with the area around the mansion, it seemed to be absorbed by a bottomless black hole. Fear and bone-chilling dread surged up within him. This level of craftsmanship could only belong to the demon-slaying king of the Palace of the Great Thousand. Don't go, come back. Be careful not to alert them. Before Xiao Yin could think of a way to break the situation, several eager prodigies turned into shadows and shot forward. Seeing this, Xiao Yin let out a cold snort. His immense soul power surged like a tide, enveloping the figures of those moving forward. Normally, Xiao Yin wouldn't care about the lives or deaths of these people, but this time was different. This time, they were facing the extraterritorial realm, the shared enemy of the Great Thousand Worlds. And this was the extraterritorial headquarters. The mansion of demon-slaying King Zhou Yuan was placed here, which clearly didn't make sense. There were too many suspicious points. Damn it! Quick, bring them back. Within the extraterritorial evil clan, besides the basic 108 royal families, there are also 17 sacred clans, each of which has a Red King stage powerhouse. Now, this mystic ghost clan in the void has been wiped out by Senior Zhou Yuan, but after countless reincarnations, who knows whether a new clan will rise to take its place? Xiao Yin explained, his gaze continuously scanning the surrounding void, as if the place was exerting immense pressure on him. Swish, swish. Although many were extremely envious of Xiao Yin, in such a special place, they could only follow his lead. What should we do now? Feng Qin, Xian Fengzi, and the others agreed with Xiao Yan's view, rushing over and speaking in confusion. Clearly, at this moment, it was better to unite than to act alone. This feeling, it seems like someone deliberately used the Martial Mansion as bait to lure us here. Xun'er's beautiful eyes flickered as the reincarnation seal began to squirm, and she exclaimed in shock. Boom! Before her words could even fade, the distant sky was pierced by dark, oppressive shadows, causing the entire firmament to deepen in color. Ah! 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 Heart-rending screams echoed throughout the land, drawing everyone's gaze, and with them came a tremor that resonated deep within their souls, sending a chill down their spines. The several heavens chosen who had initially attempted to approach the Martial Mansion's residents had no means of resistance. Their bodies were pierced by a pitch-black shadow. Fresh blood dripped down, its sound painfully jarring in the otherwise silent mystic ghost region, and everyone could clearly feel their lives rapidly fading away. The three reckless individuals had reached the reincarnation stage in power, yet they were killed with a single strike by the Black Shadow, without any ability to fight back. Upon seeing this, the crowd could not help but shudder violently. Behind the shadow, there appeared to be a massive creature, adorned with black cracks that resembled intricately carved dragon-like patterns. Run! The three individuals, whose lives were swiftly slipping away, used their last breath to glare hatefully at the shadow before them, filled with fear. They then roared toward Xiao and the others in the distance. Crack! With no vitality remaining, their bodies were immediately engulfed by a blood maw, and the gnashing began. The harsh sound of chewing deeply pierced the hearts of the powerful individuals present. Even though they knew the Marshall Mansion's mission would not be simple, the disparity in power was far too enormous. Naturally, as Heaven's chosen, they would not blame the demon-slaying King Long Luochen. After all, this kind of opportunity was always a matter of life and death, and they fully understood this. Xiao, brother, let's go. This guy's strength, it's beyond what we can handle. Moreover, we're in extraterritorial territory. Our priority should be to enter the Marshall Mansion. The golden paper that Long Luochen gave you should allow us entry. Golden flames surrounded Xun'er's body as she spoke seriously to Xiao.